হ্যালো। সো 2 বছর বাদে আমরা ফেরত আসছি আবার আলাপ নিয়ে। ইনিশিয়ালি এটা একটা কোভিড পিরিয়ডে শুরু করা একটা ইনিশিয়েটিভ, যেখানে আমরা আমাদের পরিচিত বন্ধু বান্ধব, কালিগ, কোওয়ার্কার, ফ্রেন্ডস যারা সেলফ পাবলিকেশন সাইন নিয়ে কাজ করছে তাদের সাথে আহ, আলাপ করতে চেষ্টা করতাম, বুঝতে চেষ্টা করতাম যে তারা কিভাবে নিজেদেরকে প্রোগ্রেস করছে, ভাবছে, কাজ এগিয়ে নিয়ে যাচ্ছে, কাদের সাথে দেখা করছে, কি খাচ্ছে, কিভাবে খাচ্ছে, কোথায় মিট করছে, কতক্ষণ মিট করছে। 2 বছর অনেকটা সময় পেরিয়ে গেছে, আমরা এখন আর সেই সিচুয়েশনে নেই, সিচুয়েশনটা বদলেছে। পার্টিকুলার আজকের এপিসোডটা আমরা ইংরেজি, হিন্দি আর বাংলায় কথা বলবো। আমরা পরে সাবটাইটেল অ্যাড করে দেবো। আহ তিলোত্তমার সাথে আছে, আমার সাথে আছে ব্যাড প্রেস। তিলোত্তমা, তুমি যদি একটু শুরু করো, তারপর আমরা ধীরে ধীরে এগোই, হ্যাঁ, গল্পতে।
ইয়েস। সো হ্যাঁ, আমাদের সাথে আছে হচ্ছে ব্যাড প্রেস। আর আচ্ছা, প্রথমেই আমি বলি, কেন এটা ব্যাড প্রেস?
হ্যাঁ, এর একটা নাম।
ব্যাড প্রেস আমি বেশি ভাবিনি নামের ব্যাপারে, বাট জাস্ট কেম অ্যান্ড ইট সাউন্ডেড পারফেক্ট ফর হোয়াট উই ওয়ান্টেড টু ডু। তো এই জন্যে ব্যাড প্রেস ইজ, আই থিঙ্ক, ইফ আই হ্যাভ টু এক্সপ্লেন, একটা একটা ফিলিং হয় মধ্যে বিফোর ইউ ওয়ান্ট টু পুট সামথিং আউট, কি
হুম
ভালো হওয়া উচিত,
হুম
হুম
পরিষ্কার হওয়া উচিত। I
হুম
think this one go against that and say that okay, man, it doesn't have to be perfect for
হুম
you to
হুম
ইয়েস,
put something out.
রাইট। কারণ
So
হচ্ছে আমার প্রথম যখন সৌমিত্রের সাথে আলাপ আমাদের, এবং
হ্যাঁ, সৌমিত্র, ওনার নাম আমরা বলিনি, সৌমিত্র ব্যাড
you
প্রেস।
can call me Sumitra. Huh?
হ্যাঁ
ইয়েস
Sumitra
হ্যাঁ
is
হ্যাঁ।
my name. So bad press is a collective.
ইয়েস,
So you,
আচ্ছা।
so it's not just.
ওকে।
So
সো
you can.
ব্যাড প্রেস একটা কালেকটিভ, অ্যান্ড এই কালেকটিভে তুমি কতজন, অর হাউ ইউ কাইন্ড অফ লাইক?
So I was the one who started bad press. Or I call it a loose collective
ওকে।
because I'm also a flaky person. So I haven't been able to like maintain consistent communication with people to also
ওকে।
keep it going with a fixed number of people. So
ওকে।
it's also like a way for me to basically collaborate and play with my friends and my, with ideas, different ideas and different people.
হুম।
So that's why we call it a loose collective. Yeah.
লুজ কালেক্টিভ, এটা একটা নতুন শব্দ।
দ্যাটস নাইস।
হ্যাঁ, নতুন শব্দ মানে।
ব্যাড প্রেস, লুজ কালেকটিভ, দ্যাটস নাইস।
হ্যাঁ।
ইয়া। আর
So if I have to draw an analogy,
হ্যাঁ।
so there are some আমাদের কাজে I like to like think there are a lot of parallels between our work and with music. So
হুম
you can think of it also as like a there are a couple of bands out there where one person sort of remains consistent, and
হুম
you have like different musicians who come and play music like a rolling sort of band.
হুম
Different people come and play with one person,
হুম
and so the music sounds different every time, but there is some common themes that are there or common feel that is there in the music.
হুম
So I like to think about it like that.
হুম
So
দ্যাটস
হ্যাঁ,
নাইস।
মানে যেটা আমি।
so you can also,
ওকে, নাইস।
and it's interesting that craft angle. Like you can also think about it as like a movie. Like a director who's making multiple movies, but in each movie, he's working with a different crew
হুম
or
হুম
slightly different.
হুম হুম
ইয়া।
So a crafted analogy, it's quite interesting. I never thought about it like that.
হ্যাঁ। তো জাস্ট কিউরিয়াস, তুমি কি বলবে,
নো
বলো
নো,
বলো, হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ
I just, it's just a remind, like when you say the craft,
হ্যাঁ
even যখন আমরা বইটাও বাঁধি, like বইটা
হুম
যখন আমরা বাইন্ডিং করি, there is a lots of like individual, like different
Yeah,
different things, and one thread or
yeah,
one kind of like things basically
বাইন্ড ইট
bind
টুগেদার,
it
টুগেদার,
together.
হ্যাঁ।
So
হুম
that is
yeah.
also kind
হুম
of.
Yeah, there are different things that go into a book. Even the act of printing the book,
হুম
there is
হুম
a
Mhm.
হুম
consideration that goes into that. Then
হুম
the words, the pictures, the style, and the
Mhm.
story. All of
Mhm.
these things are like aspects of craft to each of these uh,
Mhm.
things.
তুমি এই
You know.
ক্রাফটটা বললে বলে, um, I'm just curious, like how basically your initial process, I mean how you kind of like design or format, like your book, zine, or whatever it is? Because you always mention it is like it can be a book, a zine, or something like that.
Yeah, like I like to think of them as books basically. Like I always wanted to make books. So I read a lot of books, but I have attention issues, ironically. So it's easier for me
Hmm.
to read with pictures. ছবির সাথে বইগুলো বা comic হলো না when we were younger, all our books had pictures in them. But as we got older, you were expected to read more books with lesser pictures in them.
Hmm.
Uh, but
হুম,
I feel
এটা
I've always been an advocate for and enjoyed reading books even at this age, with pictures in them. Like the books that we make, they might not be for kids, a lot of them. They're for people our age or, not kids, but with pictures,
Hmm.
because
হুম,
it's just easier to read.
হুম,
So I think that is like I think that is something that we believe in. I believe in strongly that books should be fun to read, and I think for us quick to read also, because like I said,
হুম,
attention is an issue that I
Hmm.
have.
হুম,
So I'm happy if I can read a book in like maybe an hour, within an hour, and get something out of it, and get something out of it that makes me keep going back to it also. It's friendly when it comes
Hmm.
to read also. So from a craft point of view, that is what we are going for in each of our books. So I think like when we talk about each books individually, I'll be talking about what we're trying to achieve
হুম।
with each
Yeah.
book.
হ্যাঁ, এটা জাস্ট
But
সরি, তুমি বলে হ্যাঁ, ইউ ক্যান শেয়ার লাইক, আই থিঙ্ক উই ক্যান গিভ ইউ শেয়ার স্ক্রিন অপশন। আই থিঙ্ক ইটস অলরেডি দেয়ার ইফ ইউ
আমি
ডোন্ট হ্যাভ, ডু ইউ হ্যাভ অপশন, রাইট? হ্যাঁ,
আমি একটা রিকোয়েস্ট
হ্যাঁ, হ্যাঁ, আই অলরেডি শেয়ার্ড। না, তুমি এটা
করবো।
বললে বলে আমার মনে হলো ইটস ভেরি ইন্টারেস্টিং থিং, যে বললো না ছবি ছবি দিয়ে কিভাবে আমরা স্ক্যান করি, মানে মনে রাখার জায়গা থেকে, রিকলিং এর জায়গা থেকে, রাইট? কালকে আমি
হুম,
অ্যাক্সিডেন্টালি একটা জিনিস শুনছিলাম, একটা পডকাস্ট। সেখানে একজন বলছেন, যে
হুম,
একজন থিয়েটার অ্যাক্টিভিস্ট, তিনি বলছেন যে
হুম,
একটা রেগুলার প্রসিনিয়ামে তিনি বহু বছর ধরে কাজ করছেন একটা সোশ্যাল থিয়েটারে। হঠাৎ করে এরকম
হুম,
হয় যে তিনি সেই একই প্রসিনিয়ামে দাঁড়িয়ে একই কথা বলছেন, আর শেষের মঞ্চেতে যারা আছে, মানে শেষের সিটে যারা বসে আছে, তারা শুনতে পাচ্ছে না। তারা বারবার বলছে, আর একটু জোরে বলুন, আর একটু জোরে বলুন। তো প্রাইমার টপিকটা হচ্ছে এটা, যে আমাদের আমাদের লিসেনিং ক্যাপাসিটি, আমাদের মনে রাখার ক্যাপাসিটি এবং আমাদের অবজারভেশনের ক্যাপাসিটিটা ধীরে 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 কমেছে। মানে আমরা তো
হুম,
সবকিছু হয় না, নয়েজ ক্যান্সেলেশন, সবকিছুকে ক্যান্সেল করছি না, ফিল্টারিং করছি। তো যদি
হুম।
টেক্সট পড়ার ক্যাপাসিটিটাও কিন্তু কমেছে কোথাও একটা গিয়ে, যে আমি টেক্সট কতটা পড়বো, যে এত টেক্সট, মানে হয় না,
হুম।
ইনস্টাগ্রাম করেও খুশি হয়নি, আমরা থ্রেড বানিয়ে ফেলেছি, যে ইটস লাইক মোর টেক্সট, মোর টেক্সট। তো এটা খুব
So
রেলিভেন্ট একটা।
if I have to draw an analogy to খাবার, like
হুম,
we are Bengalis, we like talking about food. তো
হুম,
যখন খাবারও যখন বানায় যায়, তো it takes like hours to prepare food. But
হুম,
when you eat it, the meal is over within half an hour, sometimes even 15 minutes.
Yeah.
আর তারপরে পরিষ্কার পরিচ্ছন্ন করাও একটা
Exactly.
আরেকটা কাজ that takes longer. So the meal itself is just 15-20 minutes, but it takes a certain amount of that craft comes in to give a good meal in that 15-20 minutes. It
হ্যাঁ,
should be an enjoyable
ওয়াও,
experience. It should be a layered
এক্স্যাক্টলি।
experience.
তুমি ওটা বললে বলে বাংলাদেশে একটা জিনিস আমি খুবই মানে ইউজ টু আর কি শুনে, যে আহ, সবই
Mm.
তো খাবারের জন্যই। সো ইউনো, ওই যে যে লার্জার তুমি মানে তার আগে পরের ক্রাফটার বলছো,
হুম,
এইটা থেকেও বেরিয়ে গিয়ে আই মিন হোয়াট এভার, মানে ইউ
ইউ,
ইউ আর হিয়ার বিকজ অফ দ্য ফুড।
হুম,
সো
Of
ইন দিস
mm.
ইট ইজ লাইক ইউ,
হ্যাঁ,
ইন এ লার্জার সেন্স, লাইক
ও,
এভরিথিং,
হ্যাঁ,
মানে সবই তো খাবারের জন্যই, মানে আমি যাই করছি সবই তো খাবারের জন্যই।
হুম,
তো
And
হ্যাঁ।
food is interesting because it's also, if you even think about movies also are like that, like creative pursuits and creative artifacts, a lot of them are like that. মুভিও বানাতে 1-2 বছর লেগে যায়, কিন্তু
হুম।
কি 2 ঘন্টার একটা মুভি, like
এক্স্যাক্টলি,
it's taking you 1 or 2 years to make a movie that is only 2 hours long. So
হুম,
why is it taking 1 or 2 years? There's a lot of craft and a lot of thought that is going into giving a good focused experience,
হুম,
হুম।
depth with depth in that
হুম,
2 hours. That's funny, that's entertaining,
হুম।
that's a it could be anything you want it to be,
হ্যাঁ,
you know.
Yeah, I mean, it
But
is
হুম,
like
maybe
a something like a lukma, like
হুম,
like the perfect portion. So you really want to taste it. So it's a kind of a look mark
Yes.
in every craft.
Mm,
Yes.
mm,
You should feel full. Your stomach should feel full. Your soul should feel
mm,
happy. Like
mm,
after
Mm.
তিলোত্তমা তুমি বলছিলে কালকে কি people who work manual jobs at the end of the day they have that meal and for them it's that 15 minutes they need ki of
mm. Wow,
Yeah,
wow,
of
yeah.
feeling good you know
Mm,
কি
exactly.
পুরো দিন কাজ করে খাওয়ার এক আনন্দটা
Yeah,
মানে একটা হয় you
একটা
know
yeah.
and yeah
yes,
so
yeah. আমরা একটু তোমার শুরুটাতে যাই, like I was very
Mm,
curious,
yes.
like how you have started, like কিভাবে তোমার প্রসেসটা শুরু হলো যে তুমি ইন্ট্রোডিউস হলে ব্যাপার।
sure so we have structured things here also that might help you guys keep a
হ্যাঁ
track on the time. I hope I've not added too many slides, but roughly I have added too many slides. There are like 90 slides
হ্যাঁ
roughly. So I'm going to go at a clip of like 1 minute per slide. That's how I'm going to like track the time. So
ঠিক আছে,
like
Mm,
হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ
just for
হ্যাঁ
my
হ্যাঁ
thing,
হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ
okay?
হ্যাঁ,
Feel
great,
definitely.
free
হ্যাঁ
to interrupt me whenever and ask. I think that will keep the conversation more interesting.
Yes,
হ্যাঁ
definitely.
तो hello bad press says hello तो bad press টা কি আগে so like I said it's a loose collective so I work on these zines with friends mostly so some of those friends are real some of them are imaginary imaginary মানে হলো কি that could mean multiple things we talk about it some people write under pen names they don't want to be identified I also write under multiple names because I feel like some stories have a particular tone. I think it helps for me to separate tones.
Mm.
We Bengalis we have two names. মানে আমার একটা ভালো নাম হয় আর একটা ডাক
পেট নেম,
and ডাক নামের personalityটা একটু আলাদা. It's like a বাড়িতে ডাকে. It's a more informal personality than
হুম
say the ভালো নাম, which is more formal.
Yes,
হ্যাঁ
ভালো নাম।
So my dark name is Joy. So I also write under Joy. I write under Shomitro, and I
Mm.
have one or two other nicknames. And I've written with friends also who have used nicknames. So we'll
Okay.
get to all of that. So we are working on an ongoing series of zines, and we call this series notebooks. I think the reason we call it notebooks is also because of its, like I said, informal nature. মানে I think all this work is very personal to all of us. So it's sort of we think about this work also as has a journalistic quality to it
হুম
because there is a strong autobiographical um, component in all the work that we. There's fiction also, autobiography and fiction blends, but there is some element of autobiography in all our work.
আচ্ছা
So we've been publishing zines, self-publishing zines since 2019. So every year there is like a when from the time we started, there's been like this informal sort of loose goal कि এক বছরে তিনটে জিন বানাতে হবে মানে it just keeps a kid gives a cadence to it. So if you actually calculate from 2019 till now, it's this is the sixth year. If you would have kept that cadence, you would have made like 15 to 18 zines, but we made like 14. So it's not like we are going militarily as per that. তো
No.
একটু আস্তে চলছি আমরা if you calculate, but it gives us a cadence to work with.
Yeah.
Um, তো
তুমি
শুরু কোথা
সরি
থেকে করবো?
ইন্টারাপ্ট করলাম একবার, তুমি তোমার কাছে শেয়ারের পারমিশনটা পৌঁছে গেছে, রাইট? ইউ ক্যান শেয়ার না?
Oh, my screen is not visible. I
না
thought
না
it
না,
was
আই জাস্ট
visible.
লাইক তোমার মনে হলো তুমি তুমি হয়তো শেয়ার করেছো একবার। হ্যাঁ
Sorry, share করি। Oh, I thought you could see. Sorry. দেখতে
Yeah.
পাচ্ছ?
আসছে, কিছু এখনো আসেনি।
এখন এসেছে?
না, বলছে সময় তো হ্যাঁ স্টার্টেড শেয়ার, হ্যাঁ আবি
হুম,
এসে 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 এসে।
এসেছে।
And I didn't think much about what I was going to study. It was like, হ্যাঁ সবাই ইঞ্জিনিয়ারিং করছে আমিও করিনি। I liked maths, I liked science, so I thought engineering was a good choice. But when I started college, I wasn't really that, I didn't feel very engaged by the subjects they were teaching. So I started reading a lot. So what my interest and my brain was occupied a lot by stuff that I was reading and movies that I was watching and music that I was listening to. And Herman Hesse was this author I read in my third year. আমার মনে আছে I must have come across him through some other authors. I mean, Wikipedia, wherever I used to come across authors or books, I used to go through their Wikipedia. So I think it was some author mentioned Hess, and I read about his books and I was curious. I liked the way they sounded. তো আমার একটা বন্ধু
Hmm.
মানিপাল থেকে ব্যাঙ্গালোর ছিল, ব্লসম বুক হাউসে, তো বলছিল, আমাকে বলেছিল কি আস্ক ফর হোয়াট এভার বুক ইউ ওয়ান্ট, আইল গেট ইট ফর ইউ। আর ওইখানে তো, হ্যাভ ইউ বিন টু ব্লসমস, মানে চার্চ স্ট্রিট, there are like 4 5 bookstores in this road, one road in Bangalore. It's like a sort of a more expensive version of College Street, you could say.
Okay.
এটা কোথায়?
Bangalore.
ব্যাঙ্গালোর, আচ্ছা না।
Bangalore. So there's this bookstore there called Blossoms, which is a 3 story building, and all 3 stories are books. And there's a huge collection of second-hand books. So
Hmm.
I asked him to get me Siddhartha by Hess. So that was my first introduction to Hess, and since then I think Hess has also become one of my favorite authors. I read multiple books by Hess, and his all his books have a similar structure. I haven't read all of them, but a lot of them do, that show like a sort of trajectory of growth of a central character, like how a central character changes from the
Hmm.
beginning till the end. So it's sort of, a lot of his characters are young men who are on the cusp of adulthood, and it's about how they sort of transition into adulthood from their youth. So I don't know, for some reason this kind of these books appealed to me. you know um even in Japanese literature, you have these novels that they call I novels, right? Which
Hmm.
describe a type of confessional literature where events in the story correspond to events in the author's life. So why I liked it also, I think I could relate to it because I also felt I was changing.
হুম।
Like I said, at home, বাড়ির থেকে I left for the first time. তারপরে বাড়ির মধ্যে it's a small world you are in, of your house and your school. তো যখন তুমি হস্টেলে গিয়ে থাকো আর কলেজে পড়ো,
Hmm.
you are detached from that world a little bit. আর কলেজে in Manipal also, it was a special place because ওইখানে it was like a student town. There were no adults. It was like this town with multiple colleges and no adults. The only adults were the teachers. So that
একটা
way,
একটা জিনিস আমি তো জাস্ট কিউরিসিটি, এই মণিপালটা কোথায়, মানে এটা কি মানিপালে না, এটা কোথায়?
no, this is in Karnataka, coastal
কার্নাট,
Karnataka. It's on the border of Karnataka and Kerala.
আচ্ছা,
So it's south coastal
সাউথ কোস্ট।
Karnataka. It's near
হুম,
Bangalore.
আচ্ছা,
Bangalore name.
আচ্ছা,
ওখান
ব্যাঙ্গালোর।
থেকে it's around 60 kilometers from Bangalore.
হুম,
Uh, ওইখানে I was studying there at Manipal Institute of Technology.
হুম, আচ্ছা,
ওইখানে আমি I had gone. This was in 2010.
হুম,
Uh, so I
Hmm.
started reading a lot, and I started like basically exploring bookstores. And when I used to, আমি যখন বাড়ি আসতাম দিল্লিতে, uh, I used to go সিপিতে একটা bookstore ছিল called People Store, People Tree
টি,
People tree.
bookstore.
হুম,
তো ওইখানে they had a nice collection of
হুম,
books that you couldn't find in a lot of other bookstores. You couldn't find them online, some of those books. So one of these, my first zine I think I found there that I really liked. It was called The ABCs of Anarchy.
Yeah.
হুম,
And this had
And
been, have you seen this? Have you
yes,
seen
হ্যাঁ,
this
yes,
zine?
তিলোত্তমা ইন্ট্রোডিউস মি, হ্যাঁ।
it
Oh,
is.
great.
হুম,
So I read this in 2013 and I loved it. And so this page here, it says like what a zine is. And it says that a zine can be anything, like, or anything else you can think of.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, this is a book, but it's different from what a book is. It's
Hmm.
হুম,
interesting. And these zines had been stocked by Bombay Underground, whom I actually got in.
হুম,
I was aware what Bombay Underground was, but this was my first connect with Bombay Underground.
হুম,
So also, like, I'd grown up with authors like Charles Dickens, and it
হুম,
was to Oliver Twist. David Copperfield was one of my favorite novels, but I never read the full novel. Like I said, in এই এডিশন গুলো আসতো কল গ্রেট ইলাস্ট্রেটেড ক্লাসিক্স, এক সাইডে এক ছবি থাকতো আর অন্য সাইডে টেক্সট থাকতো,
হুম,
and they had fixed formats. They were like 238 pages. There was one big hardback version, and there were soft small paperback version, and they were all the classics they had. তো আমি লাইব্রেরি অনেক পড়তাম, বাট এনিওয়ে লাইক Charles Dickens, I liked Oliver Twist, I liked David Copperfield, and then someone told me, or I found out that he actually published these in chapters in a serialized way in local magazines. So the book wasn't written all at once. So he used to write it chapter by chapter and publish it every month, and then it used to get collected into a book. So I found that very interesting. For some reason, I just assumed it was all written in one chunk. So it
Hmm.
was sort of like a TV show, very
Hmm.
about it like that. So every month or every week, there used to be every month, I think, there used to be like a magazine where you could read a part of it and it used to
Okay.
come together.
একটা প্রশ্ন, কিউরিসিটি, জাস্ট না, লাইক সামথিং ইউ মেনশনড, বিকজ আমার ছোটবেলায় না, লাইক দ্য ফার্স্ট টাইম আই হ্যাভ এনকাউন্টার এনিথিং লাইক দিস, ওই নিউজ পেপারের ফার্স্ট পেজের তলায়, আমাদের ওখানে ওই নিউজ পেপারে তলায় ছোট করে এরকম জিন বলবো না, কমিক স্ট্রিপ আসতো,
Comic strip.
স্ট্রিপ আসতো,
What a comic strip.
কমিক স্ট্রিপ আসতো। তো লাইক জাস্ট কিউরিয়াস, তোমার তোমার ছোটবেলায়, মানে তুমি যে ফেজটা থেকে বলছো, সেই ফেজটা তোমার
Hmm.
কলেজ থেকে, রাইট? তোমার কলেজ এপিসোড ইজ দ্য প্রাইমার টাইম যেখান থেকে তোমার ইয়ার এনকাউন্টারিং সাচ থিং।
I think I became like a little more aware of these things in college. Before that, like say Charles Dickens and these great illustrated classics, these
হুম
I'd read in school, but I
হুম
used to never
Okay.
think about it that much, like what is
হুম
happening
Hmm.
when it comes to
হুম
like making these. মানে এরম ভাবে ভাবতাম না. I used to
আচ্ছা,
just read it and for the stories,
হুম
you know. I
ওকে,
started thinking about these things more in college,
আচ্ছা,
with my college
হ্যাঁ,
reading.
বেশ, হ্যাঁ,
So did that answer your question? So I remember আমার এই কমিক স্ট্রিপ গুলো, একটা টার্জান কমিক স্ট্রিপ আসতো, আহ, তো টার্জান ওয়াজ সিরিয়ালাইজড, লাইক দেয়ার ওয়ার সাম লাইক গারফিল্ড which was like you didn't need, there was no continuity,
নো,
রোজ একটা আলাদা আসতো,
হ্যাঁ,
কিন্তু there were some that were serialized
হ্যাঁ,
like টার্জান,
হ্যাঁ,
তো
ম্যান রাইট,
একটা স্টোরি
হ্যাঁ,
ডে আফটার ডে একটা
হ্যাঁ,
স্টোরি চলতো। তো আই রিমেম্বার আই used to read টার্জান, I didn't like it very much, I liked the cartoon more,
Hmm.
কিন্তু আমি because I liked the cartoon, I was interested in Tarzan and I used to read the serial strip.
হুম,
And I didn't know at the time that the original Tarzan was actually that. The cartoon came, the Disney version was based on that.
হ্যাঁ,
You know, কিন্তু আমি জানতাম না. I like the Disney version more.
Right.
Um, so I think all these things were like there in my head. I wanted to write, and these ideas were there that things can come together in pieces, and it can be autobiographical and things like that. And then the first Indie Comics Fest happened in 2018. So I think that was like a very big event, like when it came like a trigger to make
Hmm.
things my own. Because Indie Comics Fest, have you guys like tabled at ICF? We've met at multiple fests, but I'm not sure if we've met at an Indie Comics Fest. I think the last time we met at Indie Comics Fest Delhi only.
Hmm.
So this was the first, I think, first Indie Comics Fest happened in 2018. So for 500 rupees, basically you got a table and you got an art people who'd come and look at your work and even
Yeah.
buy your work. So that was, I think, a very amazing thing,
Yes, yes.
very democratic platform. And earlier on, it was very open. Now they've become a little rigid, which annoys me a little. এখন বলে কি কমিক্সই হওয়া উচিত, কমিক্স উইথ আ সি, হ্যাঁ, প্যানেল হওয়া উচিত, ডায়লগ বাবলস হওয়া উচিত, ইট হ্যাজ টু বি আ সার্টেন ওয়ে। আগে একটু লুজ ছিল। তো I love comics, and like I also, like I said, think about them as basically books with pictures, and that's why I like reading. So this was the first bio I wrote for one of the first ICFs I attended. So launching its first three-part zine comics miniseries microverse sort of thing, so this was these ideas coming together, ki acha, so the idea was to make these zines, and each zine would by itself would be readable and
হুম
independent thing, but they would all like sort of be a part of this series and also be talking to each other, in a way. So there'd be like one narrative that's going through each of these scenes, but at the same time, designing একটা term আছে gestalt. Have you heard about this
কি
term?
বলে, সরি?
So
Design
gestalt,
actor.
Gestalt. So what it means is basically the sum of parts, the whole is bigger than the sum of parts, So
Okay.
when you think about a smiley face, there are two dots and there is one bracket niche. So
Hmm.
if you just think about it as three different parts, it's two dots and one bracket. But they come together, they become a smiley, which is more than just two dots and a bracket. মানে একটা
আচ্ছা।
চেহারা হয়ে যায়,
হুম।
you know. So like
Okay.
I wish I could explain it better right now, but I hope that makes a little bit of sense. Ki
হ্যাঁ,
basically
হ্যাঁ।
in a painting you have the canvas, you have the paint, and you have the forms that the paint takes, but the painting you don't see as these separate things, it comes together as one whole thing, you
হুম।
know. So that's how I thought the idea was interesting ki, you know, these books would be separate by themselves, but together they would form a bigger picture. And as I I think the way I thought about it is it's an approach to writing a novel, similar to Charles Dickens' approach, say, you know, writing it episodically,
হুম।
right?
Hmm.
But all the episodes come together, you know.
হুম।
Um, but I think like another influence for me growing up was this movie Pulp Fiction. It was a big influence. So
Movie.
ওইখানে it
হ্যাঁ।
was like the movies. Have you seen the movie?
The Pulp
Um,
Fiction?
Pulp Fiction, huh?
I think I have
Quentin
seen
Tarantino.
once. Huh, like, huh.
No, I don't know.
So there are like chapters in that
Hmm.
movie. There are chapters. There are like 4 or 5 chapters, and they're non-linear,
Hmm.
right? But they sort of come together in one story,
Hmm.
you know. So each one is independent by itself, but there is one
Hmm.
story
Hmm.
that connects all of them also.
Hmm.
So that was one. These ideas were slowly coming together, you know.
একটা
So
একটা কুইক কোয়েরি আছে সৌমিত্র, আমি জাস্ট ভাবছি প্রশ্নটা আসছে তো। নো, হ্যাঁ, মানে 2019 ফার্স্ট টাইম তুমি পাবলিশ করলে, রাইট?
yeah.
হ্যাঁ, এটা কি এটা কোথায় হলো? গোয়ায় হলো?
So 2019 they were three 2018 mein there was the first ICF I attended. So for that me and my partner at that time,
হুম।
we made the simplest zines you can make is you take an A4 sheet,
হুম।
you cut it and
Hmm.
হ্যাঁ, হ্যাঁ,
fold it and you have an 8-page zine. Na?
হ্যাঁ,
That's
হ্যাঁ।
the simplest zine. So in the first edition of ICF, I remember me and my partner sat down and we made like 3-4 zines each and sold them for 10 rupees each.
Okay.
So 500 rupees for the table, and we printed a bunch and we saw ki people are buying, people are reading, and it felt so nice. Even if people
Yeah.
don't buy, when they pick up your work and they read it, and someone likes something and they smile and you have a conversation, it
Yeah.
was you are also, you know what that feeling
হুম।
is, right? It's
Absolutely.
feel so
Absolutely.
like it's like a magic door opened, you know, ki,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
great, you can give people things
হুম।
for them to, you know. Uh, so that seed got planted, and then it was like, okay, for the next edition, 2019, is when I started working on notebooks as a series.
Okay.
Um, so in that year, we did like three editions of ICF. So one
আচ্ছা।
in Kochi, one in Goa, one in Delhi. তো আমি তখন ব্যাঙ্গালোরে থাকতাম, কিন্তু
Okay.
আমার my parents were in Delhi. So I used to come back to Delhi from time to time to visit them. So
Hmm.
on one of those visits, I did the ICF in Delhi, and
Hmm.
Bangalore থেকে Goa and Cochin are not that far, just
হ্যাঁ।
overnight bus.
Yes.
So I registered, and it's just 500 rupees, which is quite affordable. So
হুম।
I I went overnight to Goa and to Cochin. So I thought, why not do multiple ICFs? The funny thing is, in 2019, I missed the Bangalore ICF. Like I was in Bangalore, but I missed the Bangalore ICF.
Uh-huh.
হুম।
But anyway,
Okay.
2019, yeah, I published, we self-published three zines. So I'd actually quit my first job after 2 years. I was feeling very burnt out, um, because that was my first job. Our first job, where I think after college, you are still in that. Lot of people are in that little bubble. You are in a bubble when you are in
হুম।
college. This was after my PhD. Uh, so I did my master's in design. So when you were in college, you have an idea of like you are enjoying your work. You know, like you're doing projects because you like to do them in most cases. Jochen, when you come to the job, a friend of mine told me one thing. He was like, "Do you enjoy even 5% of your job?" I was like, "Yeah, maybe 3-4%." He's like, "The rest of the 95% is what you're getting paid to do." You know, like, if you like that 5%, you'll do it for free, you know. So,
হ্যাঁ।
but that 95%, they're paying you because it's not pleasant to do
হুম।
it all the time, you know.
But
And
তোমার কলেজের পর
Yeah.
তুমি যখন জাস্ট বোঝার জন্য যখন শিফটটা হচ্ছে লাইক তুমি জবে গেলে যে জব মাস্ট বি
Hmm.
লাইক হার্ড টেকনিক্যাল জব রাইট লাইক সামথিং এটা মাস্টার্স এর পর বলছো কোন ফ্রেজটা
Yeah,
বলছো?
so I did my bachelor's in engineering, then I did my master's in design immediately after that. So
And design
like
in what
my
sense? কি ধরনের ডিজাইন?
I did it in at NID Bangalore in a new course called Universal Design, which was sort of a blend of industrial design, service design,
আচ্ছা
these disciplines. It was a new discipline. It
আচ্ছা
was inclusive design
আচ্ছা
basically. But to like one, I also shifted horizontally into design because, like I said, in engineering, I didn't find myself very engaged by the subjects in engineering, and at the end of engineering I had a job offer from TCS, and I had to learn to code, do computer programming to do that job. And in my head I was like, I can't like imagine get myself to sit and code. you know এখন তো এখন তো AI এসে গেছে। you can you can tell AI what you want, it can write code for you, no? Then only my headspace, I was like, আমার দ্বারা হবে না। In 4 years of engineering, I haven't learned to code properly. What am I going to do a job that involves
Yeah.
coding? So luckily, I ran into design as a as something I could do. আমাদের ডিপার্টমেন্ট নোটিশ বোর্ডে একটা পোস্টার ছিল for this exam called SEED, which gives admission to IITs for in their design programs. So that exposed me কি এই জিনিস এর মতনও জিনিস পড়ে লোকেরা, you know. This is also something that people study, and something that can, you can you can do work like this also. I didn't know. So that basically also it made a lot of sense because I was already interested in drawing. I like to draw. I was reading comics and things like that, and this was sort of like a systematic sort of study of that. So the first discipline that actually attracted me was animation design. So first, so when I applied to NID first time, I actually applied for animation and product design. I didn't get in, but that's what I applied for. That's what I was interested in. So anyway, so coming back to
Yeah.
this, like when I started working, my first job was in an IT company as a designer in a
Okay.
startup. So, like I said, 95% of work is the way it is work. But the thing is, that Khujli was still there. I want to do things that make me feel good, And so
At
that's
least
why I think,
5%.
huh?
At least 5%.
At least 5%.
Yeah.
Huh, Shay. So I think like that's why that Khujli was always there. There's this book by Sumit Kumar called The Itch You Can't Scratch.
What is it called?
Sir, have you heard of Bucker Max?
Oh, yes, yes. Bakar Marx. Yes, Sumit. Yes, yes.
Bucker Max's founder
So,
Sumit, he
yeah,
had this
I will
Mm.
introduce
his
you.
his first book was called The Itch You Can't Scratch, and it's basically about this engineering student in third,
Mhm.
fourth year who wants to make comics,
Yeah.
and everyone laughs at him कि तू comic
Yes.
बनाबी.
Yeah.
So I read it when I was in third year. So that character, he was doing an internship in DRDO, and I was also doing an internship in DRDO at that time.
Oh,
So it was like there was a lot of synergy happening there. So that book also spoke to me a lot when I read it at that
okay.
time. So all these things basically came together and I started making zines. So the first zine I made was um, this was the first zine that we made. So the cover I actually used scans. So I draw also, but
Mm,
I there were these family albums lying at home. So these are like pictures of my dad on the left, these three
okay.
pictures, my family photo album. And these are pictures of my grandfather when he was young. And these are
Okay.
pictures. So
Which
the
is this
story was,
summer sleepwalking in that phase?
yeah, so I called it like Spring Rain and Summer Sleepwalking because it had two stories in it. So the first
Mm,
story, Spring Rain, was about school, growing up through school, like coming back to Hess, like the thing of growing up through a period of time. So Spring Rain was like through school, a story that captured growing up in school, and Summer Sleepwalking was a story about growing up in college. So there were
mm.
two stories in this, and the
শোনো
covers are also like,
সরি
yeah.
কেন হ্যাঁ আমি বলছি যে আমরা কন্টিনিউ করি কারণ আমি বুঝতে পারছি
Yeah.
যে এই জুম কলটা না সামারাইজ হবে। তো আমরা এটাকে
So
স্টপ,
less than a
হ্যাঁ
minute.
হ্যাঁ, তো
Yeah.
এটা
Yeah.
বন্ধ করে আমরা এটাকে কমপ্লিট করে আমরা নেক্সট জুমটা আসি তাহলে
We
প্রপারলি।
need a break for
হ্যাঁ
recording.
হ্যাঁ না, আমার তো একটা বেশি
I
দেরি, জাস্ট 2 মিনিট, গিভ আস 2-3 মিনিটস। এটা করে আমরা ওই যে নেক্সট কলটা
হ্যাঁ
দেওয়া
হ্যাঁ
আছে নেক্সট কলটাতে জয়েন করে যাবো। হ্যাঁ